The 14 Karmic Laws of Love, How to Develop a Healthy and Conscious Relationship with Your Soulmate. Written by Dan Desmarques. Narrated by Nelson Lee. Copyright 2020, Dan Desmarques. Production copyright 2020, by 22 Lions. Chapter 1. How to Recognize Karmic Relationships. We don't really understand why certain people appear in our life despite the way we feel about them. Even when our brain tells us that they don't match how we see ourselves. Many times, such individuals show a completely unexpected appearance, skin color, tone of voice, or anything else that just doesn't seem to resemble anyone we ever met before in our current existence. And yet, somehow, they feel familiar to us. That which intrigues us, propels our curiosity towards them, and by following through, we become entangled in their reality. From that point onward, we can't really avoid the conflicts, the misinterpretations, the chaotic thoughts, the frustrations or contradictions, and everything else that occurs within us and in between. Even though the biggest challenge typically occurs when they present a willingness towards a direction we have once had but do not wish to see in a lifetime partner. If you ever found yourself thinking about someone you had just met for no particular reason, that was most likely a symptom of an encounter with a soulmate. Or at the very least, someone you have met in another life. The most interesting thing about such encounters is the delusional idea that most people have that they can somehow avoid the consequences. Because you can deny the impact it has on you, but you can't really avoid it. You can choose what you wish to do with fate, but you can't stop it. Due to my level of consciousness, I can easily tell who is supposed to meet me for karmic reasons. Sometimes I talk to them about those reasons, and sometimes I don't, depending on how much they seem prepared to handle the truth. Many of those who can't get any answers from me often call me mysterious and claim that I have a high ability to avoid questions. But that is not something that I do on purpose. It is rather a natural behavior, an adjustment coming out of an analysis that I do on their soul. And that proves itself accurate every single time. There are also occasions in which I do the opposite, by either ridiculing my level of awareness, devaluing the amount of knowledge I possess, or by ignoring the conceptualizations others have formed about themselves. And I do that for the same reasons. Not always the one who is not prepared is the one who lacks the knowledge. There are also many situations in which the one with the most knowledge has trapped himself in his own beliefs, and in doing so, delayed his own spiritual growth. This situation is actually very common among religious individuals. I have seen many examples of this in Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism, and I must say that those in these groups who have shown fear and resentment towards me are precisely the ones who need me the most. Human beings get confused and lost for different motives, being the most common, the following: an erroneous sense of self-importance, misinterpreted or misleading information, the incapacity to adjust to contradictory beliefs, the fear to change towards new paradigms. Not only is irrelevant to discuss deeper topics with such people, but also dangerous. It is for this reason that I advise my students of cartomancy to never disclose everything that they see in a reading. Not before, at least, making a proper judgment on how much responsibility the other person can take. Otherwise, the effect of a good intention may very well be a negative result. Not many people can understand this, despite how intelligent they may seem. I was once invited to discuss my knowledge about karma in Lithuania and refused. The people in the group kept insisting that they were very interested in hearing me speak about the topic, and others that I also write about in my books. But I kept refusing, and they couldn't understand why. After they repeatedly asked me why, I answered, I don't think most of the people attending one of my public presentations will be prepared for what I will tell them. The effects may vary and are unpredictable. One of them, coincidentally a psychologist, said, you can't be responsible for what others do with what you give them. With this answer, she actually justified me, because I was talking about them. In other words, if they are so irresponsible about what they learn, they deserve to learn nothing. That answer, in the form of a projection, quite clearly verbalized what I could see. The same applies to the topic of soulmates. You can't really discuss it, no matter how obvious it may seem to you, or how much you need someone else to trust you. This, unless the other person in front of you is ready to accept his lack of control over his own fate. Because, quite often, the response of someone confronted with this topic is exactly the opposite of what you would expect or want. Basically, he or she will suppress what they fear to confront by exercising a stronger control over their own reality. And even if that control is delusional, it means avoiding the one claiming to be a soulmate. The more you
Sample complete. Ready to continue?